Hello, everyone, and welcome to NovelTea Show. This is episode 11. We are talking about building an author platform today, and thank you to our patrons for voting on this topic. Keep voting. Please suggest topics, ask us questions. We want more. We want more. And speaking of more, our podcast is officially live, the podcast version of NovelTea Show. We have 2 episodes up so far, kind of an episode 0 that tells you who we are, a background episode, and our first hour-long podcast episode all about how to write a book. We went, as deep as you can go for a topic that could be 10 hours. We're really proud of it, and you can get it on iTunes, on Google Play. You actually have to download the Google podcast app, and that's how you get the show. But subscribe to us. And Kat,
we have also started a YouTube channel where we are uploading the podcast as audio only videos, just in case I personally only listen to podcasts on YouTube, so we wanted to have that option there, and also just we're mostly on YouTube, so we have that channel over there. You can just search NovelTea Show.
We come up
after Alexa can put it in the description after this live show's done.
It's already there.
Oh, good.
I'm so organized.
On top of it.
So click down below.
Yeah, and you can go subscribe over there to see our podcast episodes as they go up. And also, we are going to be doing our live shows over there starting next month. We've been rotating between all 3 of our channels for these first 11 episodes, but we wanted to just have everything on one central channel. So there's a new NovelTea Show channel that you should definitely subscribe to.
Yeah, and then the last bit of housekeeping we wanted to announce is that we're switching up kind of the schedule for our live shows just starting next month. Our first live show in April is going to be on April 14th because con season is coming up. So we just kind of wanted to switch things around so that we still get all of our 2 a month live shows to come up. So next live show is going to be April 14th.
Mm-hmm. On the other channel.
Yeah, on the other channel.
And in the meantime, you're going to get a ton of podcast episodes.
Yeah.
The podcast is going to stick to a every other week schedule. Fingers crossed.
We're trying to do either a live show or a podcast every single week, but we're not 100% committing to that in case things come up. But yeah, we are trying to do weekly content for you guys. So yeah, exciting.
All right. And it kind of dovetails nicely into our topic. It's all about building an author platform, and really technically NovelTea could count as that. That is author platform 301. Yeah. Today, we're going 101. Just talking about what an author platform is, what it entails. Do you need one? Spoiler, the answer is yes. That's the point of the whole episode. But we're going to deep dive into how we establish our author platforms, all of our thoughts on social media, and then some kind of additional things. And we really want to answer your questions. I feel like probably the reason you guys voted on this one is that you have a ton of questions. I feel author platform is mysterious or overwhelming for a lot of people. So, let's dive right into the difficult question of what does it mean to build an author platform? What does it mean to you guys?
Oh.
Yeah, we're all hissing through our teeth ooh. Yeah.
It's I know what it is when I see it, but I can never explain it well.
It's just about, it's partly about getting your name out there. For me, a large part of it was chronicling my journey. I love having videos from NaNoWriMo 2011 that I can go back and look at as part of my writing journey, that also provided entertainment and got people interested in following me. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Tricky question.
Well, I think that right now, author platform is being an author with a capital A on the internet. It's branding.
It's your public persona.
Yes. And that's the thing. I feel like author platform has really evolved with the evolution of the internet, because it used to mean something very different. And I think it used to be less important than it is now.
For sure. Yeah.
I feel like especially in the YA space, which is what we're
Yes.
more familiar with.
Who you are, who the author is almost as important as the book. And in some cases, it's more important than the book, which is, I mean, I have mixed feelings about that.
It's weirdly, a lot of it is just within our own community and to other authors, because there are still plenty of YA readers, teenagers, who don't really follow any author circles online. But part of the community and making connections and networking, like having a platform, has become very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a huge part of it is definitely social media, which is why we're going to talk about social media in depth, partly because social media is the easiest thing that you as an author can do to build a platform, because it's being yourself on the internet, which is partly what platform is. It's being accessible to potential readers, but also, yes, community engagement for sure, Kat. And it's about engagement, creating a space where you can potentially engage with readers.
Yeah, and also providing some kind of value to get people interested in you, because there are so many authors out there and so many blogs and YouTube channels and Twitter accounts and everything, and people won't care about you, the person, at first glance. Like, it's the same as like warming up to a character in a book. Like, what makes them likable? What makes you want to follow that character? Like, do they have a funny voice? What kind of content are they providing? So I found that like the best place to start is to do like writing advice, or something that is very accessible and not about you personally, because the viewers, the followers attaching to you as a person is something that happens over time. It's not something that happens instantly.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this kind of a lot, that engaging yourself in the writing community on whatever social media platform, preferably and most popularly, I feel like Twitter, will get you like be seen more from other people. Like there's people I don't follow necessarily, but when I always see their tweets, I'm like, oh yeah, I like know exactly who they are. I know everything like that. But I do think Twitter does really help with if you engage yourself in the community.
Yeah, it used to be blogs back in like 2009, 2010, but now Twitter seems to be like the central platform for a lot of YA authors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, though I will say, and we'll dive a bit deeper into this later, in terms of there are different approaches to take in terms of your brand. And I'd say giving writing advice, you don't need to give writing advice to peers. And so there's definitely kind of the distinction, like meaning if you're on Twitter, it's not necessarily doing advice threads before you're ready to do advice threads, but it's doing like being funny or tweeting really relevant content, retweeting really relevant content, and essentially curating a feed that makes people want to follow you so that it seems like you add value to the community. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds really overwhelming, but I actually think in a weird way, that's easier than having to style yourself as some kind of guru right out the gate.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, some of my favorite Twitter accounts that I follow don't give like writing advice or talk about their own books very much, but they just make like funny, relatable, like writing and bookish tweets. And I love that stuff. Yeah. Like that's what makes me follow someone. So I'm like, oh, you're funny. You tweet funny, bookish things. I'm following you.
Which I think brings up a great question that I get a lot, which is when do you start your author platform? I think people really get stressed out like, oh my gosh, I have to build this amazing, huge platform years in advance. Mm-hmm. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to do that. Before you get an agent, and specifically before you get a book deal, you really don't have to have a platform. It should be more about community engagement. It's not about, trying to get followers so they'll buy your book because your book doesn't exist yet. So I hope that kind of takes some stress off. That said, you can aggressively build a platform before you get an agent if you want.
That's not a great strategy because like having a large platform might get a little more agent attention in a query, but it's not going to sell your book. It's going to have very little impact on that. Yeah. I personally started my platform very early because back in 2009, 2010, aspiring author blogs were the thing. And it was mostly about connecting with other aspiring authors and sharing your journey. And like, yes, you could mention that in a query that I have this blog, and like author or agents would, kind of like that you were involved in the community, that, you were a little bit savvy about the industry, but it wasn't at all necessary. And it's still not necessary.
Right.
Yeah, it's not necessary before. Sometimes when you get an agent, your agent will walk you through like, okay, now you're setting up your website, you're stepping up your game. But it's really when you sell a book. When you sell a book, that's when they're, hello cat, hi. That's when they're flat out going to expect you. I guess my cats are part of my brand, right? Flat out expect you to start going hard at building a platform.
And the thing is, you can start very early if you want to. It's just like an optional thing. And actually, I would really strongly recommend that you don't get too involved in platforms that you're not genuinely interested in maintaining. Like if you don't want to make an AuthorTube channel because you don't want to be on camera, that's not really your thing, that's totally okay. You don't need to force yourself to make a YouTube channel. Like if you prefer Instagram because you just want to like take pretty artistic pictures of like your writing setup or books you're reading or whatever, that's great. Like do whatever platform vibes with you the most, and don't stress out too much about trying to do everything.
Well, and let's talk about social media. Because I think that's really the cornerstone here. And they're not all created equal. And they definitely reach different audiences. And I definitely have strong feelings. So, let's start with the biggest and the oldest. Fun fact, I have been on this platform since the first month that it existed. I'm an ancient human. But that I think how useful it is to authors has totally changed, and that is Facebook. Do you guys have a Facebook for your author stuff? I do not.
I mean, the thing about Facebook is that it represents like past me. And when I did BookTube, when I started BookTube, I was two very separate people. Like I had a Facebook that was like my own personal life, but then I had like my BookTube channel where I felt like it was finally showing the real me, but I didn't ever want those two things to converge. So I kind of stopped using Facebook. I still don't use Facebook. I updated like a picture like a year ago, but I mean, I only use Facebook Messenger to talk to my friends. That's all I use Facebook for. I don't think I will ever go back to Facebook. And I know we kind of talked about this privately about how sometimes with Facebook, it depends on what genre you write, what kind of age category you write for, and that kind of stuff. I don't see myself using Facebook even when I do get a...
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, to let everyone off the hook, if you're here because you're YA people, because we're YA people, if you write YA, Facebook is the least useful platform.
Yeah.
Because YA readers, specifically the younger, the actual YA readers, so actual teens, don't use Facebook. They think it's the lame place where their parents are. Yep. They don't use it. And it's better for genres if your readership is primarily over the age of 35. It can be a useful space, but I can also go into a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo, because this brings up questions about Facebook ads, which is more kind of marketing, because I do marketing in my day job. From a marketer's perspective, Facebook advertising, the ROI, which is the return on investment, has really gone way down. And specifically, if you have a page on Facebook, they make you pay to ensure that your followers see your posts. Facebook is kind of evil.
Yeah.
So it's not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, if you like Facebook, then, go do whatever platform you like. Yeah. But I hate Facebook, so I don't use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, lady.
I was just going to say, like, the few YA authors, and this is coming from like the YA perspective, which is going to be a theme here, but the few YA authors that I've seen their Facebooks, there's not a lot of engagement with them just because there's not that many posts. The posts are like spread out over a very like 3 posts every 5 months. And there's just like really not that much of an engagement over on their Facebook pages. But Facebook also, I feel like, isn't their primary social media account. It's just there for the people that use Facebook to find them.
Yeah. So, and really the big word of the day is engagement, E for engagement. Author platform and social media is all about engagement. Whether it's engaging your fellow writers and engaging in the community, or when it flips and you have a book deal, or even if you do successfully build a platform before you get a book deal and you get people excited about your writing, which does happen, it's engaging with readership. And I agree. I think Facebook, for at least for YA, is one of the worst platforms for that. So let's talk more about Twitter. The big one.
Oh,
I love Twitter. Well, I have a complicated relationship with
I think we all have a complicated
Yeah.
relationship with Twitter.
I spend the most time on Twitter, though. And again, like I have a pretty decent following over there, but I don't tweet a ton about myself and my own writing. Like I'm mostly retweeting. It's not even writing related stuff. It's just like whatever memes or like funny viral tweets I see that are funny, I'll tweet that stuff. But you know, a lot of my audience is interested in me. Like over the time of following me, they might follow me for my funny retweets, but then over time they will start to like my personality and like my sense of humor. And hopefully someday when I do announce a book deal, they'll be very interested and happy about that.
Yeah. So like Facebook, I was talking to some friends about this like not too long ago. And it's like, if there's one of my 3 primary social medias, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, Twitter, I feel like is the most necessary, but it's the one that I could do without. If I didn't have to deal with it, I wouldn't, but it's necessary. And I mean, I do have a lot of followers over there too, but there's too much that invades the Twitter space that I don't like. And I don't want to deal with. So that's like the one thing. It's not like a really safe place over there, but I'm still engaged in it anyway. And I still spend, I feel like 10% of my day on Twitter. So it's a love-hate relationship, Twitter, for me. I'll never get rid of it, but I could do without it.
I think this actually brings up something important, both Twitter and Facebook, that is worth covering. Today in March of 2019, what we're saying is relevant to today of March 2019. But the platforms really evolve and they change, and their usefulness changes in a lot of ways, but also they change in terms of how effective they are in actually selling books. Because I know that the base question of author platform is, how do I use this to sell my books? So meaning, someone actually brought up an interesting point about Facebook in the chat that we didn't make the distinction, and it's important to make. When we're saying it's not worth your time to be on Facebook, or we don't feel that, we mean setting up an author page.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned, though, there are great writing communities, like communities for writers on Facebook. And I agree. There are great private groups, especially. I'm in several of them where you can ask questions and get advice. There's enormous value there because there's more of a forum structure than Twitter. And the thing about Twitter for me is same. It's not really a safe space. I think it involves a lot of emotional bandwidth. But Twitter remains, even if it doesn't directly sell books, and of all the current social platforms, I think other than Facebook, I think Twitter doesn't actually directly lead to sales. Like you can't correlate follower count with sales, but it is the best current social media space to present yourself to readers. I think it's the best substitute for a website, for example. That you should still have a website, meaning because someone can browse your feed or follow you for a short period of time, and they should be getting a sense of who you are as a person. And that's what it's for, in my opinion.
And
Twitter.
also just name recognition. You know, people who know your name, even if they don't necessarily follow you, but they've seen you like retweeted before, like if they're in a bookstore someday and they'll recognize your name, and that might make them more interested in checking out the book, not necessarily buying it because it's really hard to see how that leads to sales, but just having people recognize you. And I think another big thing is engagement in making friends. Because like if you do a cover reveal, but you don't have a very large audience and you haven't been making friends on the platform, no one's going to like retweet it and share it and no one's going to see it. But if you have a lot of relationships with people on Twitter, like your friends will celebrate with you and will retweet with you. And that's not to say you should make friends just for that, because don't build friendships based off of like obligation, like this or that kind of thing.
People can see through that.
Yeah, people see right through that. But if you're like genuinely engaging with people, you know, you see an author, you like tweet something, you reply something nice or like celebrate their achievements or whatever, people remember that kind of stuff and they might do it for you, but you shouldn't like just engage off of the presumption that like, oh, I retweeted your cover, so in the future you're going to retweet mine kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you rely on
Yeah,
if you rely on that, you're going to be disappointed. Honestly, there's so many social politics that go into Twitter that upset me. But I also want to say, like, Twitter can be such a good vehicle for buzz. How much does that buzz really matter is a question that we ask all the time. But for example, I got more traction doing my cover reveal on Twitter than I would have gotten putting it on a blog. And it's actually why my publisher suggested I do it there. Because they're like, you have a platform, author platform. So they actually suggested, they said, use your social media. And I did it on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And I got more traction on my cover reveal than bigger books by bigger authors who hadn't built those same platforms. Not to brag on myself, but I did actually compare my cover reveal to the cover reveals of 2 other authors that happened the same week. And I was shocked that mine did well. Because in my eye, I was like, oh, it's not on like an official blog. It's so sad. But because I spent this time building platform, I got really genuine excitement and interaction on that cover reveal.
Also, it doesn't hurt that your cover is gorgeous.
Yeah. I love it so much.
that also makes it much easier to share when it's like, ooh, pretty cover.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to talk about visuals and talk about Instagram?
Let's move on to Instagram.
Yeah. Pretty platform.
But I'm not good at it. That's the thing I
also
feel
not
about Twitter.
good at
I
it.
feel like I'm not good. I mean, not with Twitter, with Instagram. I feel like I'm just like not good with Instagram. So
I think almost no one's good at Instagram, but the people who are good at it are amazing.
Like the people that follow me on Instagram are like not people that are like, ooh, I like her stuff. It's people that have followed me from either YouTube or Twitter. That's like, oh, I'll go just follow her on Twitter too. So I feel like I'm not good at building a Twitter or Instagram platform. But I would like to learn how to do pretty pictures.
I think that if you're intimidated by a lot of these platforms, Instagram might be a kind of easier one to get into because it's more independent. Like you can just take pictures of like your books, your writing setup, things like that. Leave a nice caption. People will like the picture. You can ask a question and they might answer it in the comments to get engagement that way. But there's not like, people aren't like referencing something that you have to be following other accounts to see like you might on Twitter, where there's like long Twitter threads and back and forth. And like you don't check Twitter for 3 hours and you come back and everyone on the timeline is like in a tizzy over something. And you're just like, what did I miss? Like what happened? You don't get that kind of stuff on Instagram. I think it's a little like less stressful because on Twitter, you're so accessible. Like anyone can tweet you and it'll be like right there in your feed. But
they can do that on Instagram too.
You can't do that. I have my DMs closed on all platforms because I don't want to deal with that kind of stuff.
No, I mean tagging. There's actually kind of like Instagram is still figuring out its landscape and its etiquette because people hashtag and also direct tag authors in most of their Instagrams, even if the caption is negative. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. That's seeing beautiful pictures. And then the tags, the captions. I think there are 3 levels of Instagram, and I'm level 1 with a bit of level 2. Level 1, I think, is just regularly post photos from your life. I think that's doable. I completely agree with you, Kat. And what's nice is Instagram is very positive. It's all beautiful image for the most part. It's all beautiful image based. It's harder to have engagement and conversations the same way that you do on Twitter. So there's not blowups and drama. It's great. You can really control your bandwidth on Instagram. Level 2 is being good at stories, Instagram stories. And I actually think that Instagram stories is such a great way to be yourself for an audience.
That's my favorite part of Instagram is the stories.
Yes.
And especially if you're intimidated by like starting a YouTube channel, Instagram stories is a great like dipping your toe into like being on camera and doing short little videos that disappear after a day. It's a good way to like get started in that.
And so basically I think even if you can't maintain your feed, she raises her hand. I'm so bad at it. I'm also not great at Instagram stories, except when I am. And when I am, I really enjoy it. And I really feel like I'm connecting to people. And they've really added so many features. And their authors I really admire. And I adore their Instagram stories. I feel like I know them. And I love getting those snippets of their lives. And so I think that's definitely a level 2 to cultivate on Instagram, and a serious plus for it as an author platform specifically, because you can cultivate exactly what you're sending out there. You can see who's watching your stories. It's great. And then level 3 is professional Instagram. And level 3 is so intimidating, but I have to say the authors who do it really well, I admire them on a whole other level, like Adrienne Young or Stephanie Garber. But the thing about this that I just want to like warn people, you're not bad at this. You're not crazy. You're not dumb if you just cannot get your pictures to look as good as some of these feeds. I've talked to some of these people. They're brilliant. First of all, they use a professional camera. They're not using their phone. They use a professional camera. They do photo shoots with layouts and lighting, and they edit their photos in Photoshop usually. And they
give so many props. Like these pictures aren't just like a casual like I take a selfie with a book kind of picture. Setting it up, taking the picture, editing it, it takes over an hour plus.
And then the feed themselves have like a cohesive aesthetic looking like editing, like all the colors are always the same and everything looks matching and everything. That's what intimidates me the most.
Like Kim Chance changed her feed last year and her theme is pink, and I don't know how she does it. I've just like looked at her feed like I can't do this.
And you can see my attempts on my Instagram. Like you'll be like, oh, she got like 6 pictures there, they're all the same color, nice.
Good
and then it just like implodes, and then it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've never done a color theme, but I did for a while do a switching horizontal and vertical pictures that had borders. So like when you scroll,
I was so proud of you.
It was really pretty, and I maintained that for over a year because it was easier than like I could still take any picture. It was just one horizontal, one vertical, one horizontal, one vertical. Like I didn't need to be like, I need a green picture right now. It was just like, oh, I need a vertical. Oh, I need a horizontal.
And then beyond the aesthetics, they're not just doing baller aesthetics, which they do. Their captions are basically blog posts. It's next level. You can totally live your writer life on Instagram if you want to, and there is an audience there. And
you want to avoid the drama of Twitter.
But I'm so overwhelmed by it. And this is me actually informing people that there is a next level to go to, and it's intense and it takes a lot of time. I'd guess it takes as much time as it takes to maintain a good YouTube channel, honestly. But B, it's okay if you're overwhelmed. You don't have to do it. I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
And you can start small and work your way up to that kind of stuff. You know, and you can also start not necessarily taking pictures of like your writing setup or like talking about writing, but Bookstagram, you know, like as writers, we tend to read a lot and have a lot of books, and taking pretty pictures of books that like have nothing to do with you. They're just pretty pictures of books you like, can also be like a low stress way to get in on that because the focus isn't on you. It's just like promoting and celebrating a book. You can also get into the hashtags of like Bookstagram, Bibliophile, readers of Instagram, all that good stuff, you know, tag the author in the picture. Although I think we have this later on, maybe in the outline. If you're saying something negative about the book in the caption, maybe don't tag the author. Like,
don't.
If you're just taking a pretty picture and like saying something nice about the book, or not even mentioning really the book at all, like just doing like a blog post style thing, that's fine. But by tagging the author, you're like putting it in their feed. You're looking for their attention, and they don't need to see, a beautiful picture of your book, and then the caption is like, "This was so bad, 1 star."
Yeah.
That's happened to me. Womp womp. And I was so sad because I was like, it's such a great picture.
Yeah.
But I am like, I can't freak them out by hearting this.
And it's fine to like mention the author's name. Like you could say like by Alexa
Just
Donne,
don't tag.
but don't do at Alexa Donne. Like just
Right.
Yeah. And that's tagging. There's also hashtags. And the thing is, on Instagram, and this is what a lot of authors haven't figured out. This is kind of next level beyond platform. Hashtags are fair game though.
Yeah.
Because Instagram should be a reviewer space in that sense. Bookstagram should be a reviewer space is what I mean, a reader space. And it's on the author if they're following the hashtags for their names or their book.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
Like an author doesn't get notified when someone uses their name as a hashtag.
Only if they're following it, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
If they're
And
following
I'll
it.
tell you, a lot of us do. But it's still your fault. If you follow your hashtag, that's on you.
It's the same way if you choose to look at your Goodreads reviews, then that's on you. Like
yeah, it's about choice. So we could do a whole episode on this. I've had a lot of people yell at me in the comments of one of my videos about my views on this. Whatever, it's fine.
But I don't know, because I've seen that video and I've seen the comments and I'm just like, but I don't get it. Because like, why would you?
I'm not stopping anyone from saying what they want. That's what blows my mind. I really.
It's this terrible sense of reader entitlement where they feel entitled to your work, but they feel entitled to you seeing their opinion, as if you don't have critique partners and editors and other people who are trusted, giving you trusted critique and feedback.
Yeah, it's not your job to tell me that I'm garbage.
Yeah.
Hi. I don't need it. It's fine.
It's if you want to say stuff like that, that's okay, but you don't need to direct it to the author. You are not entitled to have your opinion heard by the author.
Well, this brings up a great subtopic. I know this isn't about building author platform, but I think we should mention this as a pitfall of author platform. But making yourself accessible, you open yourself up to this. And this is something that every author I know deals with. Tagged in bad reviews on Twitter, tagged in shit on Instagram. In my case, someone rolling into my comments. And that is such a direct thing. I see all my comments. I can't avoid that to be like, this is what was wrong with your book.
I mean, we all do. Like there's this misconception that like even bigger YouTubers, bigger accounts, like they don't see the comments. But like I've always read all of my comments. Like how many comments do y'all think I'm getting that I can't read them all? And also, like I spent 10 hours making this video. Of course I want to read all the comments.
And fun fact to people on YouTube, because actually I guess we should go back and talk about our favorite platform, YouTube. We see your comments even if you delete them because we get notified, even if you change your mind 30 seconds later. And I have seen some fully salty comments that either got deleted or edited afterwards. I'm like, I still see you though. I might have looked you up. I see you.
My favorite thing is when people ask comments and they refer to me in the third person.
I get those too.
I love replying to those in the third person.
Right.
There are a ton of those on my harsh writing advice video, which has gotten out of control. Like it's so many people have seen it. It's overwhelming. They'll be like, well, she blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, she's reading this. So hi, how are you? Yeah, it's funny.
I mean, the thing is, those kinds of people probably aren't watching this video here, learning about platform, because it's not the average like author-to viewer or book-to viewer that does this kind of stuff. It's when you have a video that reaches beyond your typical audience and you get like randoms from the more messy side of YouTube, like in your comments.
Don't read the comments.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about YouTube because we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And we've made it a massive part of our platform intentionally. And I think that YouTube, I think it's possible to do Twitter. and Instagram and even Facebook if you want to do it, where it really the lines are blurred how aggressively and intentionally you are building an author platform. I think that is harder on YouTube. I think it's a very conscious choice. The backbone of AuthorTube is platform. The reason everyone is doing AuthorTube is because we're writing books that we hope people will read. So let's talk about us and YouTube and why we started our channels and some of our thoughts on YouTube as a platform. Because I think that we're here and that's one of our areas of expertise.
Yeah, I think YouTube is the hardest, but it's the best. I mean, not really the best, but it's my favorite.
It's the most rewarding, and I genuinely believe that on every level.
It's the most rewarding, but you really have to stick with it. And you have to really put effort into your content. Because, you know, there's, especially these days, like when I started my channel back in 2011, YouTube was a different creature. I had a terrible camera, no microphone.
And it didn't matter.
Yeah, and it didn't matter because that was okay. But these days, like, you need to have some level of quality.
Base level.
In most cases, natural sunlight is fine for lighting. And if you have a smartphone, if you have an iPhone or an Android or anything with like a decent camera, that's okay for filming too. Like, you don't have to have like a big DSLR camera for filming. Although if you do like really want to get invested in YouTube, it is a nice investment to look into. But it's not at all necessary. Like, you can get started with just your phone and using natural sunlight when it's up.
Though that said,
yeah, I kind of feel a little controversial about that.
It's so not expensive and will change your life.
Yeah.
Even living in sunny California, natural sunlight's not good enough. This is working because my webcam adjusts to the light, and my webcam's great. I love it, but I have a higher quality cam for my normal videos, so that's why I don't use it. But yeah, I won't get nitty-gritty about my feelings about lighting. Sorry.
Well, I don't know. I feel like, you can start wherever you want, but if you want to be serious about building a platform on YouTube, I really think it's 1080p or bust. Like,
I agree.
Yeah, like we're at the stage now where high quality is rewarded a lot faster, and not to like discourage people at all. But when I started, I made sure I had a good camera. Like, I just knew it would be part of the experience overall. People would more likely subscribe to me if I had nice lighting and a good camera versus
a nice
webcam
background
and editing.
Honestly,
yeah.
I prefer to watch videos where I'm both not distracted by the background, but also it's just clean and kind of pretty. Full disclosure, I get distracted if it's really obvious to me that they're sitting at their computer and I see like a room behind them. I personally get really distracted by those videos.
And a really important factor is audio. Audio has gotten very important. Like, I do think that if you're just starting your channel and you're intimidated and you're still trying to figure yourself out, you can make do with your phone. But yeah, I do agree that if you want to take it seriously, it's best to invest in a good quality camera, a lighting kit. I bought my lighting kit in like 7 years ago for $30, and it's really easy to get like entry level stuff. I did splurge on my microphone. My microphone is on the more expensive end of the spectrum.
That's amazing.
But it's a great microphone.
Yeah, and I think also because Instagram, you can do videos on Instagram, you can do videos on Snapchat if you use Snapchat. I don't, or even on Twitter. Yeah, I feel like on Twitter too, you can also do videos because like those are more like fly by the seat of your pants type of videos. If you want to do YouTube, it has to be the next level now than it was like 10 years ago when you couldn't really do those lesser quality type videos and still get an audience on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever.
Well, and overall, I think YouTube is next level. I think that's the best way to put it. But it is your best opportunity because it is your face and it is a camera and you are hopefully making direct eye contact with the camera, which I'm very bad at. And it's high quality video and it's good audio. And the viewers feel like they know you and they feel like they are your friend. Like there are YouTubers I watch where I so desperately want to be their friend in real life.
Which
it's sad.
Be a double-edged sword because they feel like they're your friend, but
and they
that might also lead to overstepping boundaries, or to them feeling like entitled to your attention or entitled for you to like hear and like take their advice or opinions or whatever. But yeah, it's a very personal platform. Like that's one big reason why I switched from blogging to YouTubing. I mean, also I happened to get like, I loved YouTube. I watched a lot of like vloggers and I was always interested in it. So like that helped me get over to this platform. But yeah, like blogging, everyone is just faceless words, where on YouTube, you're still words, but you have a face.
Well, and a lot of people who won't read a blog post will watch a video.
Right.
And it's about using different mediums. And I find most authors out there trying to build platform are afraid of audiovisual media. And so honestly, my biggest recommendation, my takeaway in 2019 in March is more, if you're the author who's willing to put in the work on a platform like this, or going super hard on Instagram as well, you'll get payoff. Because you'll stand out from all the other authors, at least certainly for traditional publishing. Indie, obviously, they created and cultivated the author tube space for the most part, so it's pretty strong in that arena. But yeah, in traditional, which is our area, Kat, I think you were the first.
I was one of the first. There were a couple, like Jackson Pierce used to make videos.
Yes.
Today. Caleb Nation was another one who used to make videos way back in the day. And John Green, of course.
Oh, duh.
Like, those were the only 3 authors.
Well, but you and John Green are the only ones left.
So we're practically the same. But another thing I will say about YouTube that I think I've mentioned this in a video before, it is excellent training for public speaking and something that authors have to do once you get a book deal. If you're going on book tour, you're on panels, just getting a feel for how you talk and how to like word things, and just practicing so you're not super shy and reserved, and just it's really great training for being a traditionally published author in today's industry.
Mm-hmm. Definitely agree.
I started this channel the month after my book deal was announced. A, to build author platform. It was a conscious choice.
Right.
B, practicing public speaking was a huge part of it. I before I started my channel, I hated to be photographed or filmed, but particularly filmed. I didn't like the sound of my voice. I didn't like, the cattail. I didn't like the way that I looked on camera. But I knew I had to get over that, because what if your publisher, let's say you blow up, best case scenario, and they're like, we want you to go on the Today Show. That would still strike fear into my heart, by the way, even after doing YouTube for like 2 years. Oh. But I could do it. And before I started doing YouTube, I would have flat out been like, no, never, not going to happen. Yeah. Partly also because I wasn't happy with, I didn't have confidence in my appearance. Yeah. And YouTube has really helped with that. I still have really bad days. And I mean, I could do a whole video talking about body image. When you have to stare at your face for hours at a time, it's really awkward. But I'm more comfortable with myself. Plus, YouTube taught me how to wear makeup. Boom. Yeah,
same. I just made a video about this, talking about like YouTube like made me both insecure and also more secure in my appearance. Because like, there's this, I hate it, but there's this weird thinking process where if you are a person who makes a video and puts it on YouTube for the public, that opens you up to any public critique about your voice, your hair, your appearance, anything about you.
Yep. I've gotten some fun ones. Someone said I looked like Umbridge. I was like, oh, okay. I do like cats. That's cool.
Someone said I look like a gnome once, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means.
Oh no. Oh,
but
God.
Like, I also feel like I have like such thick skin from YouTube
Yeah,
because like
that's another thing. It gives
like
thicker
right
skin.
6 years ago that would have made me cry. Like, but now I'm just like
Mhm.
I'd like respond LOL and I move on with my day. Like
I'd actually
I
say
feel more prepared for people giving my work negative reviews because I've already had my work and my face and my voice and everything get negative reviews from people online. Like I've been roasted in some comments. So like it definitely gives you a thicker skin. And also it's a small percentage of people. Like most people are very supportive and nice and will say nice things. And most people who like, if they don't vibe with you, they'll just leave the video. It's like you don't have to leave a rude comment.
one hopes. Sometimes they leave comments anyway. They're like, I think this video's really like, how dare you say this to writers? I'm like, dude, if harsh writing advice doesn't work for you, bye.
Yeah, just if it doesn't apply to you.
I have like 230 videos that are like, I'm your mom. You can handle 2 where I'm funny. Cat knocking things over. Sorry.
Oh, but YouTube has also like helped not just, and I feel like it won't just help me with my author presence, hopefully, cross your fingers, but also just like in general life, because like I'm looking for new jobs right now and I've had a couple interviews. I like don't stress out about interviews anymore because I'm like, they're just going to ask me questions about myself. I can do that. I've done tag videos before. Like it's just so easy.
Well,
to just sit there and talk about yourself now.
Well, and those kinds of videos, they help you pitch your book. Like, I'm so much better at describing, because when you're on a panel, they're going to make you introduce yourself, by the way, and you're going to have a spiel to give, and videos have helped me so much. Yeah. All right, let's move beyond YouTube. We've had so many questions in the chat about Wattpad, which actually, this brings us to our next subject, which is author platform beyond social media, other ways that you can build platform. And Wattpad is definitely one. So do you guys have thoughts? I have thoughts, but I'm talking too much.
I don't have a ton of thought. Like I've posted the first chapter of Storyteller on Wattpad, and then the only fan fiction I've ever written in my life was a Carry On continuation fanfic, and there's like 2 short chapters of that on my Wattpad. But that's all I've ever done, because like once you put it on Wattpad, like if you were to publish put an entire book on Wattpad, your chances of getting that book traditionally published drop very, very low. Like the only real chance you'd have at getting that traditionally published is if it becomes very popular and a publisher decides to pick it up because it got like 1 million reads or something like that. So Wattpad is, as someone who wants to pursue traditional publishing, I haven't used Wattpad much, but if I wrote more short stories, I would use Wattpad. I only write novels. I only think in novel form. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a Wattpad and I've never used it, but I used to be on Figment, and then before that it used to be called Inkpop, I think. Way back like 10 years ago. And I used to post fiction on there, but it was mostly because you wanted to be seen. And I feel like I don't really want to be seen anymore, because like the reason I did it back then was because I'm like, someone's going to see it. I was a really great writer back then, and someone's going to want to sign me right away. And that's like what you think. But now that I'm like a little bit more knowledgeable, I know that's probably not going to happen. So I don't use Wattpad. And I think like what Kat said, if I were to do short stories, which I'm not good at, I would maybe post over there, but I have no plans to ever post myself on Wattpad or use it as a platform at all.
I do have plans to post on Wattpad. Like I've done a couple of outlining videos where like I shared an entire outline for a story. And if I were to ever like write a scene as an example for a video to like show people like how I write a scene, I would absolutely post that on Wattpad because I would want people to be able to see it and read it. But I don't think I would ever post a full novel over there.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about Wattpad. Lainey, I think that your thinking about Inkpop is actually really common. I think everyone wants to be the unicorn. Everyone wants to be the outlier. And some people are. But anytime you post to that kind of place, so we'll specifically talk about Wattpad because that's what it is right now, you're taking a risk. I also will warn people, if you're going to build a platform on Wattpad, if it's fanfic, generally, once you start in fanfic, if you do it in a space like Wattpad and your fanfic takes off, like an Anna Todd situation, you will never escape that. If you don't want to be known as someone who wrote Harry Styles fanfiction, self-insert Harry Styles fanfiction for the rest of your life, make smart choices. No, that's just a fair cautionary tale. And also,
I hate the prejudice against fan fiction. Like,
fan it's
a fantastic way to learn writing, and especially for newer writers. Like, I would almost encourage like writing fan fiction.
I wrote so much.
If you want to post it on Wattpad, like do it under a pseudonym or something. So it's not attached to like what your author name would be if you want to be traditionally published. But fan fiction is writing things on spec. Like, that's an amazing way to learn writing and to train yourself to get better at writing and to get feedback, the instant feedback, man.
Yeah. But I feel like, sorry, I just want to say, I think fan fiction has really evolved since when like we used to be younger. Because I feel like fan fiction is not the same as it was. Like, I remember writing fan fiction on like LiveJournal. I don't even know if that website exists anymore.
It does.
It does.
It's still controlled by the Russians, though.
So I just feel like it's almost different now. And I don't know if that's for better or for worse, but it's just like not the same fan fiction I remember.
It's not, but just from a platform perspective, if you want to use I was big in fanfic as a part of your platform, that is a part of your platform forever. And that is a conscious choice. Personally, ideas have evolved, but personally, because of the nature of the fanfic I wrote, sorry, I totally buried it in a hole in the past. I don't keep it a secret that I wrote it, but I don't want that connected to my professional work. And I think you should always, if you're going to go into Wattpad, whether it is fanfic or just original work, depending on what the original work is, be smart about it. Anytime you're posting your work publicly online, you could potentially be building a platform. And so you should consider that. And also, the thing I'll tell you about Wattpad, this also counts for swoon reads, which I know is a little different. But in both cases, because they both have publishing arms attached to them, Wattpad now has a books division. Those contracts are very specific and usually not in favor of the author. It doesn't mean that they're bad because you still want to get published, but I'm just warning you that if that's the avenue you're taking, be very circumspect about taking that path. If it's something that you really hold dear to yourself and you really want to have published, don't post it, is my personal feeling. That said, I am on Wattpad. Hi, hello. I actually started publishing writing advice on Wattpad before I started this YouTube channel, and I found that this YouTube channel had much better engagement and return on investment. But I do have a Wattpad, and I actually would post novel-length work on Wattpad. I'm thinking about it. But for me, I'm on the other side. It's not building a platform before. It's utilizing and being smart about my platform now. Right. And engaging with the readership by potentially posting a novel-length work on Wattpad. I'm open to it, personally. And I know other authors who do that as well.
But it would be a novel that you wouldn't traditionally publish, right? Yeah.
It's one that just would not. I'm considering publishing older work, but I'm still thinking about it because it's a little scary putting up something that I know isn't as good
as
my published work.
Like, I have like 4 trunked novels that are completed and that I queried. And I could, like, someone could read, but they're like 5+ years old. They're not reflective of my current writing skills. And I don't necessarily want to put that out there when I know I can do better. And I'd rather put the better stuff out there.
Yeah, I also have used like different plot points and different almost scenes in those older trunked novels. So it's like I could never like put it out there because I'm like, people are gonna be like, you just did that with this.
And that's what you should do with trunk novels. You should mine their dead corpses for the best parts, the jewels. So the other kind of non-traditional author platform branding thing I would like to talk about briefly, just to throw it out there, because I want to. Author platform does go beyond social media, and it's part of community engagement. I want to talk about events. events that connect to publishing or to fanish things, if you're kind of in that space, a part of my platform building, and it was really relationship building, expertise building, was volunteering for and or running, because I did end up in a position of that position eventually, fan cons. Right. That actually ended up helping me build my platform. I also moderated a subreddit. That is part of it. It's taking on almost like leadership roles and being actively engaged in the writing community beyond I'm just gonna be myself on the internet and try to get people to like me. So working on DragonCon on the YA Lit track for 6 years has made a huge difference in my career, and it's paying off now. I built professional connections with authors like Susan Dennard and Beth Revis. That's how I met them. That's how I became friends with them. That's how I learned from them. I learned how to moderate panels, and moderating panels helped me figure out how to be an author on a panel. And I also now have connections with a lot of different fan cons, or I'm comfortable at fan cons, where now as an author with a book out, I can seamlessly attend these conventions. I get along very well with the organizers because I've been on the other side. And attending conventions can be a part of your author platform. I think we all have certain authors where that's what they do. They do the con circuit and it works for them. And that's an aspect of author platform you can consider, especially if you're a science fiction and fantasy writer.
It's also a great way to take relationships with other authors to the next level, because like maybe you follow each other on Twitter, you've exchanged tweets a couple times, said congrats about whatever announcement you made, whatever. But meeting them in person and actually getting to chat with them and see them face to face, you can see if you click with them as a person IRL. Like I know Alexa, we watched each other's videos before we met at Y'all West, and then we met at Y'all West, and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, we can be friends.
And I did the same thing to Lainey. It's fine. But genuinely, I think that's an aspect of author platform not everyone thinks about, but in-person events can be a huge part of author platform. And the way to do that before you have a book deal is to volunteer. I wholeheartedly recommend it to people. If your local area has a book festival, for example, volunteer with that book festival. Yes. I just highly if that appeals to you.
The number one thing is, if you attend these events as a reader, a writer, a booktuber, like whatever, the number one thing is don't be an asshole to anyone.
Ever.
Anyone. Like whether it's the volunteer who's like helping to like run a panel or like take you to a panel, or it's, readers who have been waiting in line for another author or whatever, or other authors, even if it's an author who like maybe they don't have a book deal yet, or they have a small book deal or whatever, like weird things that people can be judgy about. Like just be nice to everyone. It costs you nothing, and not being nice can really come back to hurt you in the end.
I have a list. It's fine.
We all have lists.
Well, yeah, you guys have had it as booktubers, and for me, being the like person working on the con, some authors talk to you like human beings and peers, and some are not nice.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I feel like my platform has protected me in a way, because my numbers, even though I don't have an agent, I don't have a book deal, like who am I? But people don't want to be mean to me because I have a sense of like power in the community, because I have such a huge audience and a huge reach. But yeah, I haven't had too many authors be like straight up mean to me, but I have been kind of ignored and like dismissed.
I feel called out. No, I'm kidding. I wanted you to be my friend. It's fine. But actually, I think we should talk about, because we're kind of dancing around it, and I think each of us took a different approach of branding ourselves, and we haven't really talked about branding. And I think branding is actually a very important part about author platform. You have to decide who you're going to be on the internet. Now, of course, it should be an actual extension of who you are, but I do think you should make a conscious choice. And I'd love to talk about different options. So for example, both of you, whether it was intentional or not, being a booktuber or like being a influential reader is what we'll call it. That is a branding strategy. You're branding yourself as an expert on the thing that you love, and then there's a transition from being the influential reader to being the writer. And we're seeing that now with booktubers getting book deals. Bookstagrammers are not far behind. We're gonna see it. That is definitely
I've seen a couple.
choice.
A couple bookstagrammers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It's a double-edged sword, but it is a branding option.
My situation, mine was less conscious and more, I kind of got swept into it because I started my YouTube channel in 2011 because I was moving from author blogging, which a big thing in there was like you start an author blog to track your journey, to make connections with other aspiring authors, and to start a platform. Agents kind of said, like, if you have a platform, that's a bonus and a query. And I was like, well, I love talking about writing. I don't have any like writer friends IRL, so I want to talk about writing online. And I started my channel just to talk about my own writing journey. For the first 2 years, the first like 50 something videos I posted, they were just daily NaNoWriMo vlogs from 2011 and 2012 until like I started getting a little more traction in 2012. I had a couple booktube was very new at this time, and I had a couple booktubers shout out my channel because they were participating in NaNoWriMo. So I started to get some of the booktube established audience, which was very, very small at that time, on my channel, and they would see my bookshelves behind me. I've always had a huge book collection, and they would be like, you should make bookish videos. And I never wanted to review books because I was going into this as like an author platform kind of situation. But I started doing book hauls, I started doing shelf tours, and eventually like so many people were asking me like, what are your thoughts on this book? I did start reviewing books. And I have, for the most part, stopped reviewing books over the last few years because I am trying to shift back more into an author platform. So I still do book hauls, and I'll do like fun book tags and like book recommendation videos to like share my reading tastes and to like shout out books that I truly love. But I have stepped away from reviewing books.
I did not make my YouTube channel with the intention of like an author platform at first, mainly because like during that, I created a booktube channel in 2013. It was very much a booktube channel. And it wasn't until around 2014, 2015 that I started incorporating my writing more into it. But I don't even know if like I have a brand. Like I don't.
You're
I don't.
Ginger, Lainey. That's your brand.
That's my
And
brand.
you read.
And I read, but like whenever I think of like, oh, a really cool brand, I just don't feel like I have it. But
I think you're rocking slice of life. You're rocking like,
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
a writer like you. You're good at that.
Yeah. Okay.
You're
And that's a nice brand, I guess.
And that is a choice you can make. I
Mhm.
didn't start out doing that because blogging is hard. I do advice branding, which is a whole other arm of author branding that you can do. My warning for this is don't give advice if you don't know what you're talking about, because you kind of need proof of concept to build your brand on advice.
And also so much advice is already out there. Like you're just echoing what you saw in someone else's video.
I think that's why I do so many vlogs, because like no one really is like, why would I take advice from you? Who are you? So I'm
I
like,
would take advice from you. You're smart.
Like, well, thanks. But I felt like at the time when I first started it, I'm like, I don't know how like accurate my advice would be. So I'm just going to do all these vlogs to let people see what kind of writer I am. And maybe they'll get attached to me that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to do it. Like, I think showing your own process is what I would encourage like new author tubers to do, rather than like giving like 7 writing tips, which is a video I definitely made back in the day.
Everyone loves a listicle.
Yeah, those can get kind of repetitive. Whereas if you're talking about your personal process, like your writing habits, how you outline, like showing stuff like that, it is like kind of advice, but it's also just like you showing what you do, and that gives people perspective. You know, people can watch that, they can say like, oh, like she outlines like this, maybe I'll try outlining like this, where you're just like showing rather than telling people what to do kind of thing.
Yeah.
By the way, Lainey, the chat says that your brand is the Mummy, Kat's brand is Carry On, and mine is Crushing Dreams.
I am wearing my mummy shirt.
Yay!
I haven't taken it off all weekend. So
and congrats, Sarah, on getting an agent. That's amazing. Yeah, she said that she got an agent because of my advice.
Congratulations!
Which is why I do what I do. And I did consciously make advice my brand, by the way. But I consciously made advice my brand once I had something to actually give advice on. I waited.
Started your channel, yeah.
Guys, I exercise such self-restraint. I waited like 2 to 3 years before I did this. I wanted to give advice so badly, and I didn't do it because I am strong. Yeah. But also because, and I think that you should think about this, not to psych yourself out. I thought to myself, what can I say? What advice can I give that would be better than or add to or meaningfully contribute to what my idols have been doing, like Susan Dennard and Beth Revis? And it wasn't until I got to a point where I was like, I do actually think I have a different perspective entering the industry 6 to 8 years after them that I can actually offer. And that's when I started this channel and doing this. Because I do think so many people try to do advice as their brand that it's overwhelming and very few people can do it well. And the double-edged sword of it that I'm going to warn you about, let's hope I do okay, is if you're so good at giving advice, if advice is so your brand, your advice as a brand can eclipse your writing. Mm. And people who love your advice won't necessarily buy your books. Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't give advice because you think they're going to buy your books. It's a nice bonus, but danger.
Yeah, I didn't set out specifically to do advice. It was more about like my process and also like celebrating writing craft, because I love writing craft. I could talk about it forever. And I developed an outlining method that other authors have used. Like, I don't have a published book, but I've had several authors use my outline structure and publish books, which makes me really happy because I'm like, oh, thank God it does work. Because like I don't have my own claim to fame of like publishing a book there, but I put in so many hours of developing that outlining method, and it feels really good to know that like it doesn't just work for me, like other people have utilized it and like really made it work for them.
Well, but same thing, you've evolved to where now you can confidently say, I have a thing and it works. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you more about it. Yeah. Advice as a brand is an evolution, in my opinion, or I think it should be an evolution. Mm-hmm. I've just seen so many young writers decide, advice is my brand. I'm like, do you have an agent? Hi, what?
It's kind of like the street cred thing. Like at least when I like look for new author tubers to follow and stuff, I not to sound rude, but I'm like, but what's your street cred here to like give this kind of advice? So, I mean, that's why I liked Alexa's channel so much. I mean,
I love you.
Again, I just know what you mean, but like, I'm like, well, she has an agent, she has a book deal, so she must be good at giving advice.
I tried.
Also, so by the time I had found your channel, I had already been like following publishing advice in the industry for years and years. So like watching your videos, it was really easy for me to immediately be like, she knows what she's talking about. Right. Whereas I see a lot of author tubers or bloggers, Twitter people, like
all over the place. It's not just AuthorTube.
Yeah. A lot
I see tweet threads and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, well, I'll see things and I'll be like, that's not like terribly wrong, but it's also not right. Like a lot of advice I think is like just off, like skewed in a weird way. And I'm like, I can tell that you're saying something that you've heard but haven't experienced actually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and not to make this all about how to give advice, but I'm also very careful. And part of where I felt I could start giving advice about publishing as a whole is when things haven't happened to me. I have so many people that I talk to in the industry. I won't mention something or give advice about it unless I can think of at least 2 to 3 case studies within my firsthand experience that I have heard about. And then I'm like, I can comfortably talk about this even if it didn't directly happen to me, because I know for a fact that happened to these 3 people and I can talk about it. But you're right. I see people and I'm just like, have you like, I can tell when someone doesn't actually have traditional publishing experience, but they're giving advice on it. I can tell.
Yeah, and that's the fastest way to lose me. Like if you're giving advice that I personally, as someone who is like invested in the publishing industry, but I haven't had a ton of these experiences myself. But if I can instantly tell that you don't know what you're talking about, like I'm out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about brands that don't have anything to do or directly to do with writing, because I think you can successfully do this, where you take a thing about your personality or your hobbies or the thing that your book is about, and you make your brand revolve around that.
Like
do we have any? Sorry?
Like Lieber Dugo?
Or, yeah, I also, similarly, I can think of Emily Duncan, where it's like her brand is like edgelord, kind of. And that's a compliment, by the way.
Yeah.
And it's so organic and it's so true. And actually, let's talk about when your brand isn't genuine, because I've seen people try to do edgelord branding. I'm like, this is not who you are. You try to put on black lipstick and act emo on Twitter and just that's your brand. No. Did I just kill the conversation? I think it's funny.
I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, well, fandom is a brand, by the way. It's definitely a brand, especially if your books have that in them. Being fanish is a brand. So it's that you're tweeting or whatevering about your favorite show.
Oh, you know who said this well? Ash Poston with
yes.
and Princess and the Fangirl. These books are like celebrations of fandom, and you can tell that Ash is very involved in fandom and has been for a long time. Like,
and she's a relatable, funny nerd.
Yeah,
and that's legit a thing. Yeah. I like that. And your brand should be an organic extension of who you actually are, hopefully. And if you're funny, be funny. But if you're not funny, please don't try. It usually doesn't work. My brand is queer. Yes, Mackenzie, I love that. That is totally a brand. Well, here's.
I have one thing to add about branding. It doesn't. If you build an audience in something not related to your books, you can. That audience might not necessarily translate over to liking your books or liking your work. Like on my vlog channel, I did a little series that was cooking with Kat, where I just did like chaotic cooking in my kitchen.
We know, Kat.
And a lot of people really enjoy those videos, but are they necessary? Like, a lot of them are readers because they came from my booktube channel and they like my general branding. But if you only like those videos, are you going to want to read a book? Are you going to want to read my book? Like, and not necessarily. If you like my sense of humor, then that could translate over. Or just like being curious about like, this girl doesn't even know how to cook. Can she write a book? Let's find out, kind of thing. But like building an audience in like lifestyle vlogging doesn't necessarily translate into building a book reading audience, which is why like when YouTubers first started getting book deals, it was only the massively popular ones who had like millions and millions of followers, because just having like booktubers have an easier time of getting book deals than a gaming YouTuber with the same numbers, just because they are more connected to a book audience and to book readers. Like their audience is a community of readers, whereas gamers might not have that same success.
Yeah.
Now, to also clarify, that doesn't mean it's easy for a booktuber to get a book deal. Like, you still have to.
You still gotta write a book.
Be talented. I have a pretty decent booktube audience, and I have several trunked novels and no agent. So just having a booktube audience does no way guarantee a book deal.
My cat moved my camera again. Let's try to like get into a space to wrap up. Is there anything we haven't covered that you guys want to talk about while I go retrieve my camera?
I did see one thing earlier in the chat, which was how do you engage with authors? How do you make friends on Twitter? Like, where do you start? And that's difficult because every person is going to be different on like what kind of audience interactions they would want. I personally, some of the people I talk to the most on a day-to-day basis are some of my Twitter followers who like reply to a lot of my tweets. And yeah, it's tricky. I say err on the side of being nice. Like making a sarcastic joke to someone if you're not close to them can come off very rudely. But just like follow authors that you like or other aspiring authors. Like that's where you're going to get the most back and forth engagement, I feel, because a lot of authors with bigger platforms like just don't have the time to reply to every tweet and to like get personal and like bond with everyone who replies to them. But yeah, do you guys have any advice on how to be friends with authors?
Well, I think you should almost maybe not go for like the top right away because that's just impossible. But surround yourself with people that are at the same level or the same part of the journey with you. There's a lot of people that I'm Twitter friends with who don't have agents, but they're writing their books. We're all kind of in the same level. And as we start to advance, we're kind of brought along in that journey if they don't ditch you, which is, I think we've talked about that before. But
we had a whole episode on making friends. And actually, like, we can refer you to that episode. It's in our playlist. We talked about some of the politics and mechanics of this. One thing I will say is generally with author platform, and this includes with the whole talking to authors and whatnot, it's a long game. It takes time. You should be patient. It's not about aggressively gunning to grow your following, to engage with certain people. It's being yourself on the internet in a calculated fashion. You should definitely consider like, ooh, do I want to tweet that? Like, will this come back to haunt me? Is this a brand I want to put forth? So for example, personally, I'm not a political person generally. Like I have strong beliefs and I share them privately, but my mother always told me not to talk about religion or politics, so I don't generally ever. So thus meaning I am not the person to do a lot of that on my Twitter, for example. It doesn't feel organic to me. I boost the topics I'm really passionate about, and I have key topics like I get political about education policy, and you're like, wow, that's so dry, Alexa. I'm like, I love it though. I love it. And my Amazon's about to start talking. Alexa, stop. Can't say my own name. But it is a choice, and meaning you have to say to yourself, is this something I'm passionate about? Is activism something I'm passionate about? I'm going to make it part of my brand. And then it is a part of your brand, but you might not want to. And that's just like, it could be that. It could be, I know people who are moms, but they decide, you know what? I'm not going to talk about my kids because I don't want my kids to become part of my brand. You have to think about these conscious choices.
I have a lot of, like Alexa said, I have very strong opinions on politics, and I have a lot of things that I care very passionately about that I intentionally don't talk about because, like, I don't care if someone makes fun of the books I like or, like, thinks that the meme I retweeted is stupid. Like, that's not going to hurt me. But I don't like getting in fights on the internet. So it's easier for me to just not talk about things that, like, if someone says the wrong reply back to me, I'm gonna want to throw hands, you know?
And I will go ahead.
I was
Sorry.
going to say, I think you said that a lot of Twitter, maybe.
Yes, I am thinking of Twitter.
Yeah, because I mean, I do, obviously we all have strong political opinions. I don't think mine are secret, but I don't ever feel like attacked for saying them or.
I mean, I do retweet things that I believe in, and
Yeah.
I like tweets that align with my beliefs.
Right. And I often will retweet stuff and tweet things because no one can really come for you if you retweet something. So I usually find like, like, I don't know, like a news Twitter source or whatever. I'll retweet that, or I'll follow like my favorite politicians. People can find who I follow, and they can get a sense for me that way. Because I don't know, I feel different about this because I've seen people on BookTube talk about like, why do you put politics in it at all? I want people to know what I believe in. I'm just like, that kind of person. So it's not, I don't feel like it's part of my brand, so to speak, but I want people to know who I am as a person. And I think sometimes that can really, I don't know. Cause like, I mean, I wore like,
you'll get that audience following you. Like,
right.
I don't want anyone who's like homophobic or transphobic or misogynistic following me. So like,
they wouldn't have a good time with me either. To be don't read my books.
Like a lot of my followers, you know, they will have like rainbows in their name or in their profile, and I see that a lot because like I have like a queer friendly platform, so like I've curated that kind of audience who's interested in that.
Yeah, and then I'm always surprised when I see someone with like hashtag like MAGA in their bio following me, and I'm like, do you know who I am? Like,
let's not talk about politics anymore.
Yeah.
Except say, I do think that it's always a conscious choice. And I mentioned religion too. Same thing. I'm personally deeply secular, so who cares? But Mama told me not to talk about religion or politics, so I just happened to follow that with platform. But I do think it's worth thinking about, and I will be perfectly honest. This is worth saying. In traditional publishing, if you are on the more conservative side, and by conservative, I mean if you're like all the way on the right, and that's on your platform, a lot of agents aren't going to sign you, and a lot of publishers aren't going to buy your books. And then the question becomes like, do you want to represent yourself as you are, or do you want to hide that? I don't know, but I'm putting it out there that I have heard of cases where
publishing is pretty liberal.
And I've heard of agents withdrawing offers from people who they saw putting up hateful tweets. I'll be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And why would you tweet hateful stuff? Like,
I know. It's not about what side you follow. Yeah. It's about being hateful towards anyone, but whatever.
People on Twitter who are like very liberal will come for you. Like, I know of a couple authors who are homophobic, and they, if that got out, then their careers would be deeply impacted, because you don't want someone who is homophobic writing for teens and like propagating those ideas. So like that would be an unpopular
the dark underbelly of YA. New episode. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring us into politics, but meaning it is an active choice when it comes to brand, especially in the social justice space. And so I do like to warn people that I personally prefer to boost other voices rather than, I don't feel any need to make that my brand because I'm a booster, not a shouter.
I'm not gonna make a Twitter thread about it, but I'll retweet the people that I want to.
Yes, I mean, and this is actually something that comes up with Twitter. This is a conscious choice you have to make about your brand. What are you choosing to tweet? Because it matters.
The only reason I don't tweet about like politics and stuff like that is because I personally don't want to deal with the mentions of hateful people coming at me for that. So like I applaud authors who do get very political. Like I love following them. I love watching them like drag the people who come at them for like being political. But I personally, just for my own like mental health and self-care, like I can't be that spokesperson.
Yeah. Well, and also like, to be frank, not to like, I'm very socially liberal, but I come from a family of moderates. And so I just like, I wouldn't want to like shout down my own family. So I play more to the middle. So, and in publishing, you'll find it gets really tricky too, because certain books play really well in certain areas, and you don't want to isolate your audience, which is that too meta?
I mean, that's a whole other topic.
That is a whole other topic. Yeah. Okay. Any other things we want to kind of wrap up on? Because we're going a bit long.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize what time it was.
Well, what's tricky about this topic is author platform goes so far beyond social media, but there's so much to say about social media. So that's mostly what we covered.
Yeah.
It's the primary way that you're going to be reaching your audience.
Yeah. But again, like, do what feels right to you. You know, if you want the more low pressure of like not getting political on Instagram, like do just Instagram. Just take pictures and write little blog post captions and not worry about like getting into back and forth and like whatever discussion is happening on YA Twitter this week. Like you can pick and choose platforms entirely based on just what you want to do.
Yeah, and I feel also a really important thing is that you're probably not going to get instant gratification right away with a lot of these platforms. I mean, yes, you could go viral. That's, you know, a unicorn type of situation, but
but they won't buy your book.
But like, I feel like I've been like crafting my platform for years now. And and I'm still having to work still just as hard to get the same kind of engagement back. And it's never going to be easy sailing. So,
well, but I'll tell you, once you guys get a book deal, it exponential growth. So like my Twitter, I think I was sitting at like, I did crack 1,000 before I got my book deal, but I never got to 2K. I don't remember where I was sitting. Now I'm over 5K and I think I'm approaching 6, but all of that happened because I got a book deal. My Instagram follows went from like 300 to over 2,000 only because I have a book coming out. And then YouTube is a whole other animal, meaning don't stress out about your followers before you have a book deal. It's about having a base so that once you are on that next step of your career, you have something to springboard off of. You have something that existed before. And if it didn't exist before, you can also build it once you have a deal. That's not the end of the world.
And like I will say that is really important for like building your platform initially, because like from what I've seen, like Christine and Sasha, they both already had very established platforms when they got their book deals, and they didn't experience they experienced some growth because of that, but it wasn't like exponential because they already had such an established audience.
You can go at it either way, but the ones who manage to build astronomical platforms before getting a book deal are definitely outliers. So don't stress out and hold yourself up to that level. It's hard.
And I will say something. I don't know. I think Twitter and Instagram are more, you know, on like a daily basis, like daily, weekly archives. But YouTube, having an archive is very important. Like you will experience very little growth in your first 6 months to a year. You know, it took me 1 year to hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So like you have to stick to it. You have to have consistency and you have to have that archive, because if people find your channel and you haven't posted in 3 months and you only have 10 videos, they will not subscribe to you. Even if they watch all 10 of your videos and they like them, they might not subscribe because they're like, well, are they ever going to make another video? Like it's been 3 months and there's only 10 videos.
YouTube won't promote you either. And most of my traffic comes from YouTube promoting my videos on dashes and on the side, recommendeds.
YouTube rewards consistency.
And they reward consistency. Yeah. And also, like, I noticed I started getting, if we're talking about author tubes, exponential growth. Well, once lovely people like Kat and Christine shouted me out. But when you did that, I had an archive.
Yeah, that's why it's important. Yeah.
And I've gotten so many people saying they found me through a video YouTube promoted heavily, but they subbed because they got into a binge spiral. You have to have that bingeable archive, and you don't know what they're going to attach to. So I also prioritize posting a variety of video types. Like I've got crafty types, vlog types, industry types, listicles. You never know what's going to like work.
You want to have an archive that someone can binge. Like that's why I subscribed to you, Alexa. Lainey mentioned the video. And I went to your channel and I started watching some of your craft videos and I was like, she knows what she's talking about. Subscribe.
My strategy works. YouTube is the one that I specifically built as an author platform. My other ones I just started as like, I want to be on Instagram. I want to be on Twitter. And then I merged them into author platforms later.
Yeah, I would say like, especially with YouTube, be consistent and don't give up if you don't see results in the first 6 months, because you will like
first year.
Yeah, first year plus. It's really hard to gain traction early on. And a lot of people get discouraged because they're putting in hours and hours of work into videos that are getting 10 views, 20 views. And it's just like, how do I get people to watch I'm making good content. How do I get people to watch it? Like you just have to keep making more content, one of your videos will get picked up by the algorithm and promoted, and then people will start coming to your channel more and more.
Yeah.
But it's just you have to wait for it. The return on investment it's a long game. It's not
yeah.
you can't get YouTube popular overnight anymore. I mean,
Yep.
sometimes you can, but like it's much more difficult, particularly in BookTube and AuthorTube, because our communities are so small and there's so many people making videos now.
Yeah. And I've tried to convince people to join it, like traditionally published authors. And when I tell them how much work and how long it takes, they go, what? I'm like, hey, that 18 months of time and investment is really paying off now. Believe me. And they're like, what? I'm like, but I love it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it.
Yeah.
And it did take 18 months to have a real payoff.
Yeah. If you just think like making a YouTube channel is gonna like make you popular or get you an audience, but you're not passionate about it, you don't actually like it, then people are gonna be able to see that, and they're not gonna be into you.
You also have to lean into your strengths, or develop them. Like, part of what I've loved about it and what has worked for me is that I always thought I was a terrible teacher. And I've discovered that if I outline, go figure, and I put my mind to it and I'm thoughtful, I'm actually not bad at teaching stuff. And so I really enjoy it, and people like to watch it. And so it's worked out, and I'm actually getting opportunities now to teach. I can't give details, but like I've had things come my way only because of this YouTube channel. People wanting me to like lead workshops and stuff. So
you don't necessarily need to start with a teaching perspective. You can start with a learning perspective. Like,
and I had no intention of teaching, by the way. I didn't want to do craft videos when I started. People asked for them, and I was like, well, damn it. I hate talking about craft, and now I kind of enjoy it.
Like, talking about craft is a great way to learn and also show that you're learning. Like, once you are at a stage of learning where you can teach another person or explain something to another person, like that is like leveling up in your own learning. So yeah.
This is the AuthorTube video where we just tell everyone why we love it.
Yeah.
Also,
we could do a whole live show on AuthorTube, honestly.
Yeah, maybe we'll do another a follow-up podcast or something.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap up. A reminder again that we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/NovelTea show. The live chat and the podcast will always be free, but it's a community for people who want to join in and support us. We couldn't have started the podcast without you guys. There are setup fees to pay for our podcast host and our website. We have a website, which is novelteashow.com, made with Squarespace. That's not sponsorship. I just like it. Where we have each of our episodes posted there with show notes. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Play. And also we have a Libsyn page where you can listen to the podcast. We have our YouTube channel where you can listen to the podcast. It's everywhere.
And Twitter. We're on Twitter as well.
We're on Twitter. We're everywhere.
We don't really tweet much. We just tweet like when there's a new podcast episode or a new live show. So our platform is YouTube for NovelTea Show. YouTube
now.
Podcast. Yeah.
So yeah, our next show is April 14th. It's going to be on the new NovelTea Show channel, not on our channels, which is a change. But we'll all post in our community tabs because I've convinced both of you to start using them. To remind you, plus we'll post on Twitter. When in doubt, follow us on Twitter. That's probably the best way to keep up with what we're doing and when new episodes are coming. And
important announcements. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you'll have a new podcast episode before the next live show. So get hype.
Yeah.
All right.
If you would be so, if you enjoy our podcast and enjoy our live shows, if you would be so kind as to rate us or review us on the podcast platforms, that
especially iTunes.
Especially iTunes.
Most people get their podcast from iTunes, and if you rate and review us, they will promote us more.
Yes. So you enjoy us, please help us in that way. But yeah, that's it.
That's it. I think we're good. Thank you, everyone. Sorry we went long. This is a big topic. Probably we should have just talked about social media. I don't know. It's fine. As always, ask us questions, via Twitter. Our hashtag is NovelTea or if you're part of the Patreon community and you have follow-up questions about any of this, you can drop your questions there. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.